Welcome. You're listening to The Lauren Epstein Show. I'll be with you in just a minute. As my guest, I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. First, a word from our generous and good-looking sponsors. You don't want to miss Beyond HR Forum, being held June 11th and 12th, 2020 in Amsterdam, where you will meet inspiring, forward-looking, and impactful leaders in human resources. Once again, the team at Beyond has selected a great venue, the historic Kramhauthal. It reflects their values of designing a unique space and atmosphere that brings forth intimacy, collaboration, inspiration, and partnership with HR thought leaders from leading companies around the world. The forum moves beyond the current HR to guide you along a journey that progressive leaders in HR are invited to embark upon. Join remarkable guests as they share their insights on how to make humanity the ultimate value to organizations, societies, and the world. This is more than just an event. It's a one-of-a-kind opportunity to inspire your thinking to go beyond and reach the unreachable. For more information and to register, please visit www.beyondhrforum.com. Last year, I met the folks at Tribe.ai. I spoke to co-founder Naomi Davidson, who just blew me away with her origin story. She grew up in a poor and unstable home, didn't graduate from high school, and pretty much raised herself, doing the best she could. Eventually, she got a job and put herself through community college. Wouldn't you know it, she graduated from Berkeley and got a master's degree in mechanical engineering from MIT. I love personal stories like this. As the global head of strategy at LinkedIn, Naomi shared her methods with others, which was a huge success. She and her partner Thomas are paying it forward so others can succeed in life. They built a learning system in partnership with Stanford and Wharton universities. They know what it's like to create something extraordinary from nothing. Tribe's latest development leads your team through daily, personalized micro-coaching. With an 85% adoption rate, this mobile application has users saying, wow. Get your free month of Tribe today. Go to trybe.ai/Lauren, L-O-R-N-E, to receive this fantastic deal. Listen to a few of their users to hear for yourself.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Mwonsa. I'm a fourth-year medical student applying to OBGYN residency, and what I love most about Tribe is that it's not magic. It's a coaching tool that empowers you to coach yourself. Even after the course is done, it's like a sharp knife that allows you to sculpt your life perfectly with the vision you intend. But it's your vision, your hand, your time, your sweat.
Hi, my name is Brenda. I'm a director of engineering and program management at Outward. Tribe forces you to think immediate at what you can actually accomplish within the next 24 hours. Therefore, Tribe acts as a guide and helps you map out small, realistic steps in your journey towards the greater change you're aspiring, and helps you to realize and acknowledge your small wins and celebrate them.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of The Lauren Epstein Show. I am Lauren Epstein, your host, and we are partnered with the Beyond HR Forum group. If you're not familiar with Beyond HR Forum, it's a conference of senior HR executives from around the world. It's going to be this June 11th and 12th. In Amsterdam. I highly recommend you check it out. Their partners are McKinsey & Company and Willis Towers Watson. Also, the organizing company is Kennedy Fitch. And if you can't make it to the conference, we highly recommend you go to the website and check out these shows, because we're going to be interviewing a lot of their speakers and also people that they are recommending as experts in their field. Today, we have Carol Leaman. Carol is the CEO of Axonify. She's a thought leader with a very impressive track record of leading tech companies. And she is the brains behind Axonify Microlearning Platform. That's what we're going to talk about today, which is microlearning. Prior to her current position, Carol was the CEO of PostRank, which is a social engagement analytics platform that she sold to Google. She was also the CEO at other technology firms, including RSS Solutions and Fakespace Systems. Welcome to the show, Carol.
Thanks for having me, Lauren. I'm happy to be here.
And when we talk about microlearning, what do we define as micro?
Well, most people think of microlearning as just short-form content. We think about it as much more than that. It's actually a methodology that maps to how the brain best works to remember information. And that is in short bites. So it's more than just short-form content. It's how you deliver information in those short bites using some brain science to actually create memory and long-term retention of information in the brain.
And so what constitutes short relative to long? Is there a time or is it an amount? What's the context?
Yeah, great question. It's a combination of things. So it turns out that the brain is really, really good at remembering 4 to 5 new things in one session or in one sort of condensed period of time. So when you think about training in a classroom, which many organizations still do, you get an instructor, they drone on for an hour, or you get them to watch a video for an hour, and you try to convey many things over the course of that hour. What happens is the human brain and attention span is about 11 minutes. And once you exceed that attention span, very little actually starts to get digested and retained. So the best way to go about training somebody is to keep it short and to only convey at most 4 to 5 new concepts in each of those short sessions, because overwhelm happens almost instantly, and then memory degradation also starts to happen. So we're talking a matter of minutes, and the number of concepts or new pieces of information is also something you should keep very small.
So I know from everything I've read about the brain is that the brain in the human body is constantly trying to economize energy, right? The least amount of energy that needs to be expended, the more likely that organism will stay alive.
Correct.
And is this part of that? I mean, is this kind of like, okay, we humans really only need to have an attention span for about 11 minutes? What do you think is behind this?
I do think it's just the way that we're wired, and the brain actually needs a break. We are frequently overwhelmed with lots and lots of things, especially, given the pace of change of business today. Technology's inundated us with things coming at us from all media. You've got email, you've got texting, you've got social media. There's just so much coming at us that the brain isn't wired to stay alert and on and taking it all in to the degree that stuff comes at us. So we adapt our brains to kind of take on a new piece of information, take on something we've read, and naturally remove or punt on things that we don't think we need to retain long term. The trouble with that is there's so much coming at us at all times that unless we really, really, really think we're going to need to know something, we tend to give short shrift or superficial attention to most things.
And does that kind of categorizing occur differently for different people based on what they believe to be important?
It is. Everybody is different. It depends on their age. It depends on the corporate environment, their job. It depends on things that have happened to them, circumstantial sorts of things. So many variables go into what people pay attention to. And so the way to get attention and to keep attention is to do it in these short bites that better map to how the brain is oriented to remembering things.
So I know that your platform and a lot of platforms now are using phones to do teaching, which is new because phones are new. And I think maybe microlearning is really perfect for phones, and we can talk about that. But I'm curious about microlearning prior to the technology innovations. Has there been anything you can cite prior to 2007 that said, hey, microlearning is really a good idea? Because I remember when I went to school, it was in all pretty much the way you're saying it doesn't work, which I can say has been my experience, that I don't usually remember a lot from those classes that I took.
Yeah, no, the reality is the vast majority of teaching, whether it was, in an educational institution or in the corporate environment, was simply done by pulling people into a classroom, fire hosing them with information, all the things you think they need to know, and then sending them out into the world to try to remember those things. It's the reason why in school we all cram for exams. It's because the brain is actually really good at remembering a whole bunch of stuff really, really quickly after the learning event and then regurgitating it onto a test, for example. But, you ask a student 30 days later what they learned, they can tell you very little of it. In fact, most of us remember 5 to 7% of what we learned in an event 30 days earlier. So we just didn't have the tools and techniques to do it. I actually just met somebody whose mother was a school teacher. I was describing microlearning techniques to him, and he said that his mother, many years ago, used elements of gaming and fun in short little learning sessions to try to convey information to students. So she was before her time, but it was also not using technology. It was, an in-person sort of experience. So it just didn't exist.
So even, and I'm thinking of maybe even before, like the industrialized school systems that we have, there's no particular history of microlearning that we can point to. It's a new thing.
No, and I would say the thing that most resembles it would be in an environment, and this still goes on today, where you have a dangerous work situation. Sometimes a leader of a group of people will pull them together first thing in the morning to reinforce. We're going to be using a lot of ladders today, and here's a little primer on ladder safety. Here are the 5 things we should all make sure we do today. So there are things like that have gone on for many years and continue today. So they're short, focused, but in person.
I remember flashcards. Would you consider that a form of microlearning?
Yes, except that flashcards, certainly my own experience with them, there were many, many flashcards, and you just went card after card after card after card. So again, once you exceed that 4 to 5 things, the pieces of information, it becomes very difficult for the brain to remember, 25 things when done via flashcard.
So for your career, you spent your whole career as either a business leader or, in finance, and your degrees in accounting. What got you into education? Was there something that occurred?
Yeah, so interestingly, all of my companies have been very, very different industries, technologies, customer bases, all of that. And how this came to be was I was running my last company, which was in the social media metrics space. And I was introduced to the founders of Axonify, who were at the very ends of their career. They had accidentally conceived of this very basic little experience for one of their customers who needed their employees to change behavior rapidly around 2 areas of loss that the organization was incurring. And so they asked me to help them because they couldn't figure out how to take that one application and then kind of turn it into a business. Just so happened that while I was in the early stages of helping them, I happily had Google come along to buy my last company. And so I decided, rather than go to work for Google, that this little thing that they had conceived of, I could envision how it could proliferate through organizations with large frontline workforces. So it was an intuition thing for me. I knew nothing about education other than my own experiences with it. But what intrigued me was the use case and the ROI that I saw, and my experience in technology generally, and trends in technology. So I say to people all the time, at the end of the day, businesses are very homogenous in many respects. What the business does specifically, you can layer on your experience in many other places to bring to bear with a new idea or new market.
Right. A lot of the folks listening are HR leaders, CHROs. What kind of efficacy does microlearning have compared to, I'll just say, conventional learning? Are there numbers to say, well, people learn 20% better or 30% better, or here's what their retention is? Is there some data that says this is better?
There is so much data now, it's crazy. So it is the case that, and this has been measured now thousands of times by neuroscientists who study memory. It is the case that the average person only remembers 5 to 7% of what they might have learned in a classroom 30 days earlier. And as time goes by, it gets even worse. So, you sit in a classroom, you learn something for an hour. Actually, memory degradation and decay is happening in the classroom while you're sitting there listening. And that, literally.
So there's data, and maybe we can find some and put it on the website so that people can see it. But so, is your vision that there are no more classrooms, or at least there's no more learning in the conventional way, and that people just do microlearning for everything through primary?
There is always going to be a place for what we call blended learning. And, it's just simply the case that you can't have somebody perform brain surgery without having a body of knowledge that gets conveyed in a larger, more intense format. The key is what happens afterwards. And so that's where microlearning, in a very complex, risky situation where the volume of foundational information is huge, microlearning can then be used very effectively to reinforce the critical things that individual needs to remember that came from the larger session. So but then there are many, many other things employees do that don't require them to sit in a classroom and learn something. You can just use microlearning to convey it.
So I always found myself more of a kinesthetic learner, and didactic learning was not. I love experiential learning, and even having a conversation about philosophy is way more interesting to me than reading a book about philosophy.
Yeah.
And just a couple of years ago, I replaced several components on my dryer with no experience of dryer repair by going online, finding the YouTube video, and fixing it. So I learned how to make repairs that I could definitely do again, and it took me no time at all. It was just in time learning. Is this microlearning kind of compatible with that? Is that part of what your clients are doing with it?
Totally. So we do prescribe lots of different sorts, like, as you mentioned, experiential learning is so incredibly important. So through a platform, like Axonify, you can reinforce key concepts. At the end of the day, you need the person to actually perform the job or the task, and then, continually have the information reinforced. They got it right. So as an example, we reinforce for a customer safety concepts in a warehouse, a very dangerous environment. They also do behavior observations. So they record about 1 million behavior observations a month, which get married with what that individual knows through microlearning in those topic areas. And machine learning then works to remediate knowledge where it's deficient. And then the observations, provide more data again. So it's this kind of closed loop system. So there you have some experiential items being married with the learning data to then help get really granular and surgical on delivering the right information to the right people who don't know what they're doing.
So I'm going to ask your advice. So tonight I am starting a graduate class, and it's the first time I've been back to school in a bunch of years. And I was thinking about forming a study group. When I'd gotten my SHRM SCP maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I formed a study group, and we would meet and we would talk. And I'm thinking like, okay, this is giving me some ideas. What would you counsel me to do in creating because my classes are like, it'll be 5 hours tonight, and it's like 10 hours on like a Saturday. And what would you suggest I do for my study groups to make me more effective with my team? What would your advice be?
Yeah, so I would say make sure you break it up frequently. So chunk down the sort of intense information into no more than 10-minute kind of sessions. And then at the end of each of those, try to introduce some sort of conversation, discussion, exercise, a little bit of fun, that might relate to some of the key concepts that are being conveyed. Those frequent breaks or breaking it up is essential. Have people relate, stories about the things that you've been discussing, real world stories. All of those sorts of things help people keep their interest, and so that attention span doesn't become a big factor. Even if it's a calisthenics break, the brain needs that break in order to recharge and then be ready to start to, retain new information.
And how long should these breaks be?
They don't need to be long, so couple 3 minutes, and that suffices to. It just kind of gives the brain okay. And then at the beginning of the next piece, really, really quickly go, okay, so here's 3 takeaways from the last 10 minutes. Boom, boom, boom. Reinforce them again.
Mm-hmm. Would you, as you do the iteration, so if you had like a 10-minute session on A, and then a 2-minute break about A, and then B, and then a 2-minute break, would I ever go back to A or back to B?
Yeah, so I would say at the beginning of B, just say, here's the 3 things, boom, 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 and then move on to B. At the beginning of C, okay, here's the 3 things from B, boom, boom, boom. You could even say the 3 things, what are the 3 things from A? So here's another technique that you should use, which is very good for creation of memory. That is, don't just tell people something, ask them to tell you. So what were the 3 key things from section A? And that causing them to recall those things helps with retention and memory very effectively.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Socratic method. I find that people will listen to themselves well in advance of listening to me.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, it's just simple fact, again, now known by neuroscientists, that recalling a piece of information and extracting it from wherever it's been stored in your brain hones the neural pathways and allows you to retrieve it later much more effectively.
Gotcha. Interesting. So that helps with recall.
Yes, absolutely. It's called retrieval practice, actually. There's a term for it. And it's kind of the same reason why most of us remember our childhood phone numbers or addresses. We have retrieved it so many times from where that piece of memory is parked in our brains that the neural pathways are very, very smooth and fast versus something that we still have in our memory, but we haven't had to recall it very much. Kind of like, if I asked you, what did you have for dinner last Friday night? You still know that piece of information. If I, didn't ask you for 40 days, what did you have for dinner on this particular date? You likely wouldn't remember. But if I had asked you that question 4 times in the next 4 weeks, guaranteed 40 days from now, you would know. So getting somebody to recall it is a way to create retention very effectively.
That's interesting. So we have a few more minutes. So let's talk about how the Axonify platform works, and what would you tell a CHRO? Like, well, what I'm giving you a little bit of a plug here. You can tell us how this works and what do we do? Yeah. What do we do with this tool that you have?
Yeah, well, I love the plug. Thank you for that. We are all about how do you train people in a way that they want to do it voluntarily. They only have to take 3 to 5 minutes a day to do it. They actually learn, and you can prove the impact to your business. And that's what we're all about. So we deliver a 3 to 5 minute, very highly adaptive and personalized experience to the individual. We wrap it in game mechanics so they have fun, they compete, they do things that free the brain of distraction so they can actually receive, digest, retain the information much more effectively. And we use core cognitive concepts of spaced repetition, so certain spacing, retrieval practice, what I just talked about, And also confidence-based assessment. We get the individual learner to assess their own confidence in their knowledge, which has a really interesting impact on their levels of retention also. So any device, anywhere, the employee has 3 to 5 minutes a day, and we can prove the business impact. So what we know...
what's I'm going to interrupt you, but like, give me a just thumbnail. What can I expect to see as an ROI?
We have customers who, for example, want their associates in stores to sell more of product A. What we know is that if you focus your content, do it in the Axonify methodology, within a 90-day period, you will see, we've seen upwards of 25%, sometimes a little bit more even, sales of a product grow. And because we have so many data points we collect, we're collecting now about 75 million discrete data points a month from our customers. We apply machine learning to it. We can prove that the knowledge in those particular product topic areas and the number of times they've looked at it, all of the data around it, are the direct result of that growth in sales. So we can get very prescriptive with our customers about, you need to train on these 3 things if you want to grow sales, if you want to increase your customer NPS scores, if you want to reduce liability with respect to accidents, for example. Doesn't matter to us what the business outcome is. If we tie it to the knowledge in the platform, we can prove and get very prescriptive and surgical around how to impact that business result.
Are there any schools in Canada or in the US or anywhere that are using this model?
You know what? I wish. We get asked all the time about the use of Axonify in a K-12 or higher ed situation. And
you get asked by parents or you get asked by educators?
Both, in fact. And the common sense of it is just so there. The issue is who's going to pay for it. And so because educational institutions are, very bound by funding models and things like that, it's just easier for us to pursue the corporate market. So the application, the efficacy of it, all of that applies equally as well to an educational setting. The issue is, who's going to pay for it and who's going to fund that application.
Well, it sounds like an obvious answer. I mean, obviously the people who are paying for education now.
Yeah, I know. And getting them to shift their mindset.
Well, it sounds like the bigger thing is like, how do you shift people's mindsets around something? But there is definitely a model to pay for education. I don't know how many billions of dollars we spend on education, but it's a few.
Totally agree with you. And we have, in fact, pursued probably 4 or 5 different educational institution conversations, some universities in Canada and the US, who have professors who clearly see this model would work. And navigating through their own organizations to, try to get them to pay for a platform just becomes bogged down in politics and like I say, funding models. So it is a big shift in mindset, and eventually it will get there. It's just going to take some time, unfortunately. Right. I think those institutions are going to be disrupted with micro-credentialing and people learning things online and not needing to go to classrooms.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I think it's going to start at the top because, the colleges, I think, is really kind of what directs all the rest, right? Yeah. The big companies hire from the best colleges. So parents want to get their kids into the best colleges, which means down, down, down. And that's that model, right?
Yeah.
Of the industrialized learning. Yeah. I think that I know that there are kids who've done homeschooling who get into the really good colleges. So I think that's why homeschooling has gotten really popular in parts of this country. Secular homeschooling has become a big thing.
Yeah.
But I'd be really interested. I mean, I hope maybe we can talk in a couple of years and say that there's been a shift in this methodology of learning, because of course we all want to learn. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't want to learn. It's just I believe that and I think you've kind of hit on it, is that our current institutions don't do it in a way that's interesting or fun or engaging or actually teaches.
Yeah, totally agree.
Well, Carol, I want to thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your experiences. How can folks find you if they'd like to?
They can find us at www.axonify.com. We're on social media at Axonify, on Twitter, and you can reach me at cleaman@Axonify if you want to just send me an email.
Wonderful, wonderful. Carol, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm your host, Lauren Epstein. This has been the Lauren Epstein Show, and partnered with the Beyond HR Forum Conference, and we'll see you on the next episode. And now a word from our generous and good-looking sponsors. You don't want to miss Beyond HR Forum, being held June 11th and 12th, 2020 in Amsterdam, where you will meet inspiring, forward-looking, and impactful leaders in human resources. Once again, the team at Beyond has selected a great venue, the historic Kramhouthal. It reflects their values of designing a unique space and atmosphere that brings forth intimacy, collaboration, inspiration, and partnership with HR thought leaders from leading companies around the world. The forum moves beyond the current HR to guide you along a journey that progressive leaders in HR are invited to embark upon. Join remarkable guests as they share their insights on how to make humanity the ultimate value to organizations, societies, and the world. This is more than just an event. It's a one-of-a-kind opportunity to inspire your thinking to go beyond and reach the unreachable. For more information and to register, please visit www.beyondhrforum.com. Last year, I met the folks at Tribe.ai. I spoke to co-founder Naomi Davidson, who just blew me away with her origin story. She grew up in a poor and unstable home, didn't graduate from high school, and pretty much raised herself, doing the best she could. Eventually, she got a job and put herself through community college. Wouldn't you know it, she graduated from Berkeley and got a master's degree in mechanical engineering from MIT. I love personal stories like this. As the global head of strategy at LinkedIn, Naomi shared her methods with others, which was a huge success. She and her partner Thomas are paying it forward so others can succeed in life. They built a learning system in partnership with Stanford and Wharton universities. They know what it's like to create something extraordinary from nothing. Tribe's latest development leads your team through daily, personalized micro-coaching. With an 85% adoption rate, this mobile application has users saying, wow. Get your free month of Tribe today. Go to trybe.ai/Lorne, Lorne, to receive this fantastic deal. Listen to a few of their users to hear for yourself.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Mwonsa. I'm a fourth-year medical student applying to OBGYN residency, and what I love most about Tribe is that it's not magic. It's a coaching tool that empowers you to coach yourself, even after the course is done. It's like a sharp knife that allows you to sculpt your life perfectly with the vision you intend. But it's your vision, your hand, your time, your sweat.
Hi, my name is Brenda. I'm a director of engineering and program management at Outward. Tribe forces you to think immediate at what you can actually accomplish within the next 24 hours. Therefore, Tribe acts as a guide and helps you map out small, realistic steps in your journey towards the greater change you're aspiring, and helps you to realize and acknowledge your small wins and celebrate them.
If you want to sell more to HR and TA professionals, we can help you bring your brand into the ears of over 100,000 decision makers around the world. To advertise on this and other shows, contact us at Lauren@LaurenEpstein.com. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show. Do me a favor and subscribe to the show on your preferred podcast player. You can get us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Play. And be sure to catch us on YouTube. Thanks.
The Lauren Epstein Show was produced and hosted by Lauren Epstein. Our show engineer and music creator is Afate Odai. This show is also copywritten by Electric Cow.